Welcome to the iNETrepreneur radio show. We are so honored to bring you your host, the ultimate celebritypreneur, connecting businesses and celebrities worldwide. Winner of the Networking Organization of the Year, best-selling author, magazine publisher, trainer, and owner and founder of Network Together and the iNETrepreneur Media Network from magazines, TV, and radio network. We're excited to bring you your host, Mr. Robert W. Jones.
Well, hi, everyone. Thank you for being on the iNETrepreneur Network radio show with me, Robert Jones. I am your radio host, and I love being here each and every week from 2:30 to 3:30. I always say, and I was talking about this with my guests, Lauren and Jen, I always like, what is it about fun? Fun should be everywhere. It's the one thing I can't get enough of. If you are having fun in business, you do more business. If you're having fun in learning, you probably learn more. So, it's all about fun. But lately, especially this last year, there's been so many things that may have derailed us from a lot of our fun. So we had to change some pivots in our life. We had to improvise, we had to overcome, and we've had to adapt through this thing called COVID. And, there's also been, for some people, some certain social unrest. And then there's also been, this learning of new technologies, this social distancing. And today's show is about that. It's about what are we doing really in the end to overcome? What have we learned? Not everyone is succeeding at the same rate as others. And what can we learn today about that? And I have some guests on the show that I think will bring us to that what's next level. Today's topic is COVID-19. How has it affected everyone, your business and your personal lives? So what I'm going to do is let's discuss the impact of COVID, the opportunities that have arisen from it, and then what's next. So I know myself, COVID has affected me so much. Right now, I can't even believe I am at a home office. I had a studio, and many of you don't know this. For quite some time, I was renting some studio space, but COVID was affecting me so much that I kept getting locked out of my office. I ended up actually letting my lease go because there's nothing worse than having a show and not being able to get into the studio. So it has really affected my lives. If you go around my house, Sean and I, my wife, we have 3 kids. One's going to school, one's full-time online, the other one is doing a hybrid. You can walk in either rooms and you have one person being, taught in one room and another person being taught in another room and another person, coming in with a home study kit. It has affected our personal lives. Business-wise, for 4 months, a lot of you don't know it, and I'm going to get very, very vulnerable here. The iNETrepreneur Network in March, April, May, and June did not make a single cent. And it was because we had to pivot. We had to change the way that we were doing business. And our model went from an all in-person networking organization to an all virtual networking organization. And thankfully, we have a tribe that really does, look after us and take care of us. And we were able to weather the storm, but it was quite scary. And I know a lot of business owners are probably in that space. They're in that space of, maybe they're scared or maybe they see this life passing, by and you're thinking like, is it passing by me faster than I can keep up with it? And I'm here to tell you, no. Some of us have had great success with this thing called COVID, and we want to be here for you. We want you to, face that fear, fail forward, grab your success, and really make a great opportunity out of it. I believe that the new economy is here to stay. And I will tell you, I will share this with you, and I'm going to bring my mom into this conversation. I wish she was here today. My mom was someone who never would have thought about being on Zoom or Skype or, Google Meet, believe me. And believe me, after about 3 months of using Zoom, I remember she got on there and she got off there and she said, I'm going to learn this Zoom thing. 2 months later, she hops on again. I get a call from her after the show and she's going, hey, son, this is how you need to work Zoom better. And I'm thinking like, oh my God, the woman who never wanted to get on camera is the one telling me how to work the camera better. So that's what I'm saying. You can do it. And that's what we're here today. Let's get past COVID. Let's get into the new world, but let's do our safe practices. Let's use our hand sanitizers. And again, quite frankly, let's have some fun. And for my first guest on today, I have Lauren with the Growth Company. Hey, good afternoon, Lauren.
Good afternoon, Robert. So nice to see you.
It is so nice to see you as well. You're looking lovely. I love the backdrop there. But but you look lovely, and your backdrop. You're way better than your backdrop. Okay, I'll just say that right there. I'm on the record to say you're better than the backdrop, because I started thinking right there and then I was thinking like, okay, I'm saying the backdrop's better than her. That's not what I meant.
Well, thank you. I'll take all of it. I appreciate it.
Lauren, I always say this, so much of the time we are so busy in our lives, and we're always connecting, and we're filling up our calendar. And I get it. We attempt to create messages. We have these great missions, and sometimes I always feel like, how does time pass? It's like, I mean, I have had a couple of the greatest conversations, you and I, and what I'm always thinking is, it starts out like, I'm going to just give Lauren a call, and it'll be like 3 minutes. I just need to tell her something. And all of a sudden I'm looking at my watch, and it's an hour and 3 minutes later. So, and it just goes to show you, it's like, you don't necessarily always really have to know someone deeply to really start off and get into a deep connection. And I feel like we have a lot of alignment. But what I want to do today is, tell us a little bit about you. I want you to brag about yourself just a little bit, Lauren. Because I can brag about you, but I want to hear you brag about you, because I'm going to turn that table.
Wow. Okay. Well, I can tell you who I am, and I can tell you how I got here and what I do. How about that?
Yeah.
Here's my big brag of the day. I have been an entrepreneur since I was 16 years old. No kidding. Brick and mortar. I wasn't kidding. I have grown, cultivated, and sold over 6 businesses, numbers totaling well into 7 figures. And I would tell you that what I learned early on was that any success I had on the outside had to do with what I had going on the inside. That led me to a quest that has gone on for 3 decades now, that has led me to over 24 certifications and practicing with clients for over 20 years, all in the realm of getting the subconscious and the conscious mind on the same page so that people can have what it is they know they're capable of having. They can shine at that 500 watt level versus the 40 they've been shining on. And here's my big brag, Robert. Here it comes.
I want it.
I have trained with the top of each of the modalities I own. So when I got my neuro-linguistic programming certification, it was by Richard Bandler. He developed the modality in the 70s. I know some of the greatest healers, coaches, and helpers on the planet, and I would still tell you, I do not know a soul on the planet that does what I do as well as I do it, or as quick. Now, it doesn't mean I am the end all for everybody. I am not the person for everybody. Not every client is ready for me, and sometimes they require something different, and I refer to a ton of other people to help people, because my passion is getting people to step into who they are here to become, because when they do, Robert, it is always about being in contribution in some way, shape, or form. So was that braggy enough for you?
So now I get to brag about you a little bit more. I mean, because here's the thing, Lauren. I mean, words are words, and credentials are credentials, and credentials are credentials. You and I both know that. What I see is there's that old saying that it takes a lot of aptitude, but that also takes great attitude to get to that altitude. And what you do is I will say you leverage those micro moments of time to say, this is someone who's truly passionate with themselves, and what they really need is someone like me to be that fire, to be that spark, and to lay a blueprint. So many times I see people teach and train, but they're teaching from someone else's words and someone else's programs. What I like about you is you don't do that. You've learned from other people's passions and their programs, and you've been around these wonderful people. But the thing is you've also been able to tie it into your own style and your own way. And that's what makes me feel so remarkable about you. And that's what we like, because you live through your light.
Oh,
and then that's really, really important. And here's the thing: a lot of entrepreneurs right now aren't living in their life. I always say, especially when it comes to changing your mind, if it's fear, go from fear, which hurts, to like, if it's fear, it's going to be fun because I can overcome a challenge. Tell us a little bit about that and what you do for people.
Oh my gosh, you have touched on so many places that I am completely in alignment and passionate about. Number one, you started off the show with talking about fun. One of the things that I teach people is that when you think about where you make your best choices and decisions, which we are doing every day,
right
now there's a whole lot of new options out there. So during this time, it would really benefit people to think about, what state are you in when you make your best choices and decisions? Is it, if this is your emotional scale, I do this all day, every day. If this is your emotional scale, and this is clean and clear, right? This is neutral. This is clean and clear. Up here we have joy, fun, love, peace, calm. Down here we have the rest. We have frustration, fear, annoyance, resentment. It's all down here.
The things that tear us. Yeah, they tear us apart. Yeah.
Most people make their best choices and decisions from clean and clear and above. This is where your creativity, your energy, your motivation, this is where it is. So how valuable would it be to help people stay here? That is key. And if I have a lot of strategies for people to use. One of the main things that I do for my clients is help them with the subconscious program, what's going on underneath that tends to bring them down. The stories, the old stories, their past, maybe it's trauma, maybe it's disappointment, maybe it's old belief systems that no longer work. I help them recalibrate those in a very real way. One day, this is not a year-long program,
right.
But we help recalibrate those, which makes staying up here even easier. And then in addition to that, there are strategies that you can use. I want to.
And I'm gonna jump back in here.
Okay.
Because you absolutely have the strategies, but see, I also believe, just like knowledge is transferable, right? Knowledge is transferable. And what I love about knowledge, it can be passed down like a legacy. You teach people the knowledge, but you also help people to tap into their energy. And that's what's remarkable, because knowledge is nothing without energy. Knowledge is nothing without that action.
No.
And that's the thing that you push and pursue on. And, going deeper with that, one of the most remarkable things that in our first conversation that I liked about you without the gate is you told me, and you kind of said it a little bit earlier, you told me that here I am, I don't know everyone and I can't help everyone, but if I can, I will. Exactly. You said that to me. And it goes back to you're more than willing to be able to close the door because you have that door open for who they need. Because so many coaches and so many people in our industry, they help because they want to make more zeros behind their bank account. You're successful because it's not about winning, it's about everyone achieving more. That's what's amazing about you, Lauren.
Well, thank you. And what I know is that I'm only one person, Robert. There's only so many private clients that I can work with. And even though I only spend one day with you, it's a life-changing event. But the truth is, I'm still only one person. So to me, surrounding myself with the most incredible other people that I can take my near and dear, the people that, and let them be helped by someone else. And sometimes what it looks like is I send them off to someone else because they're not ready for me in the long run. They're not ready. I had one client, I sent him to an incredible resource of mine. She's amazing. It took him 3 years to get to the point that he and I had a conversation, and I said, okay, my friend, you're ready for me? And he was like, what? Like, oh my, and amazing result.
And
You talked a little bit about what came to mind is that so much of everything that we're dealing with today, we're in a different time.
we are. Yes.
And this is a time where we need our leaders and our innovators to step up. This is when we need you most to shine at your very brightest, to be as creative, motivated, and energized as you ever have been and more. Now is the time. And part of understanding that, and I love the way you look at it as, you know, this is either a challenge or it's an opportunity. And I don't remember way back to our first conversations if I don't remember. I can't remember if I worked.
Well, it's not what you remember, it's just how you feel, okay? Just remember that. How you felt.
Here's the thing. You mentioned your mom in your opening, and I want to tell a quick story if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as it deals with COVID. No, I'm just kidding.
In its own way, absolutely it does.
Absolutely.
Because here, many years ago, over 50 now, I was just an itty bitty girl growing up on Long Island in a family that wasn't exactly functional.
Yeah. So it was like your next door neighbor, right?
Yeah,
you know, there's always one in every community.
Yes. Well, in this world that I lived in, and trust me when I say my parents were absolutely, I love them to pieces, wish they were here. But my dad at the time was a very high functioning, very successful, functional, very violent alcoholic. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and as children, I was 6 years old at the time. Every so often, my dad would go off on these rampages, and my mom, in the middle of the night, would wake us up and take us to Grandma's house. Now, Grandma's house was, I think it was 17 miles. I looked it up at one point. And this was kind of a little routine. So every so often, we'd get up, we'd go to Grandma's. Dad would show up a few days later. He'd apologize. We'd go back home. One particular night, middle of the night, we went to get in the car to leave to go to Grandma's house, and the car wouldn't start. Now, my mom was brilliant, but she was not mechanical. But she opened the hood anyway and realized that all of the wires were taken off. So the car was not going to start. My mom looked around and went, "Oh, hey guys, let's ride our bikes." Now, this is the middle of the night in the winter on Long Island. It is very cold outside and it's pitch black. We get on our bikes. Now, mind you, I just said I was 6 years old. I still had my first bike with the little tires. My brothers, 2 older brothers, and I got on our bikes with our mom and started to ride. In very short order, my little legs got very tired and I started to whine. Mom came up with new games to play. You know, Dad, my brothers would pull me and so on. And then it began to rain. So now I'm cold and I'm wet and I'm tired. And now I take off, Robert. I am whining and I'm crying and I'm carrying on. I will never, ever forget my mother stopping her bike in front of me under an overpass, so we were out of the rain. She stopped her bike and I stopped my bike behind her, and all I could think of as a small child was, uh-oh, now I'm going to get it. Mom's going to come yell at me and, but she didn't. She came back to me. She held my little face in her hands. She wiped my tears, and what she said was, "Oh, honey, this is not a crisis. It's an adventure." And you know what, Robert? It was. From that moment forward, it was still raining. It was still cold. It was still a long way on a little bike with little tires with little legs. But I can tell you the rest of that trip was filled with sparkling, sparkles in the street lights, and kidding with my brothers and having contests. How far up would the mud get on my mother's back, and how far could we splash? The rest of the trip had a whole different feeling to it. So if a small moment in time with a 6-year-old child can make that kind of a difference, it has affected my entire life, because now, no matter what, the moment I say to myself, "Oh, honey, this is not a crisis. It's an adventure," it opens up the world of possibility again. And that's where you opened with fun. When we are having fun, when we're open to the possibilities, when we are moving in that direction of optimism and challenge versus an opportunity versus challenge, and love and motivation and energy versus fear and paralyzation, I'm telling you, things can change, because the truth is they are going to write about 2020 in the history books. And my question for people is, what are you going to be able to tell them 20 years from now, 30 years from now, when you're talking to your kids and your grandkids and your great grandkids? How are you going to be able to tell your story of how did you show up? How did you show up? Think about that each and every morning, and it will give you a new sense of moving.
And what I see is, I believe in it. There's a societal entrainment, just like there's this symphony of music that moves us all. Some faster, some slower, some to the light, some more towards darkness. But what I hear you're saying is after a while, people go back and they search for the things that matter most. And what's really crazy is, I used to be a digital marketer. I mean, I call myself a recovering programmer, right? That's what I am. And you know what people are searching right now? The most popular words: hope. There are people out there looking for hope. You know what the other word is? Connections. It's like, even though we're being kept, whether you believe what's going on out there or not, whether it's real or contrived, we want connections again. We want to be with each other. We want to feel the social bonds that create us as us. And lastly, another word, 2 more words that are coming up, Lauren. And see, this just speaks to what you do, is opportunity and extra, doing extra for others. And that's what we're here to. Now, I know with COVID, it has impacted you. Has impacted everyone. What are some of the things that you actually you're vulnerable. We all aren't perfect. We all trip, right?
Exactly. And I was taken with your admission to go March, April, May, June, and I was going, yeah, me too, Robert. And because I have people who fly in to see me. Those flights were gone. I had people on the schedule. There was no, all kinds of things going on. I wasn't even sure legally if I could see clients for a while. And my calendar just completely dried up. And what I did was I stayed very focused on, what can I do now? What now? What next? What can I do now with what I have to serve more people? And actually, one of the benefits of the whole thing was I met you. I was not part of your circle until that. And I was looking for more opportunities to speak to more people. And quite honestly, Robert, I refused to sell anything through those first 4 months or so. I just refused. I was doing a lot of speaking virtually, and all I was doing was giving people 3 tips to get moving. That's all I would do when it came the time, so how can they get a hold of you? And I'd go, if you want to get a hold of me because you need a conversation, great, here's my phone number. But I wasn't promoting myself for as any kind of sale, because that wasn't where my focus wanted to be. And of course, I had other people telling me I was absolutely insane, going, no, you have to be constantly selling, because now it's important so you can get back on your feet. And I was going, oh, it just doesn't feel like me. All I want to do is help people today with today and getting into tomorrow.
And I remember our conversation, and we talked about this, and I said, you and I talked about, we said, people are not right now in the mindset or even the hearts that have been sold to. What they really want to know is that you're there, right? And that you care. That's what matters to people. And I think what's happened is we fast forward another 5, 6, 7 months, and there's still that feeling. And you and I are benefiting more of it, not because we intended to do that, because we weren't intending to just say, oh, I'm going to pick up more clients, and I'm going to sell more magazine space, and I'm going to be on more radio shows, and I'm going to send out toaster ovens to the people I love. It was more about people trust us, because when everyone else was trying to sell them something that they didn't need, they were selling them products instead of giving them hope. And that was a big thing that you and I talked about. And I know you and I connected on that, because we, at least I feel like when we talked about that, we said, the best thing that we can do is letting people know that we're okay. And maybe if they see that we're okay, they can use that for their confidence that they're okay as well.
Exactly. It's in essence, what you're doing is giving permission for people to relax. Just take it, relax, because it is the best thing we can do, not only for our state of mind, where are we going to make our best choices and decisions, which that's what we're doing. It's up here. But beyond that, what is the best thing you can do for your immune system? Being all stressed out and this is no bueno. So the best thing we can do is relax and allow what is the most creative part of us. Allow the subconscious mind to begin to feed us with the ideas and the energy to move, to choose and then move. Because like you said, nothing happens without action. Like we have got to be in movement, whatever that looks like. And that was, remember, way back when, when this started.
Yep. Yes.
Way, in the olden days, last March, when I was advocating for people to come up with a routine. Follow a routine. You've always had a routine. Find one. Get your shoes on in the morning. It tells your brain to work. It tells your brain it's time to go to work. You've been doing it since kindergarten. It's no different whether you're 30, 40, 50, 70. It doesn't matter. Put your shoes on. It's time to work. That means it's time to move. And for all things holy to you, do everything in your power to relax, then choose and move.
And it's so great that you say that, because I tell people, they say, what can I do? What can I do? And I said, well, I think the first thing you need to do is just breathe. Just breathe.
Always a good idea.
I mean, because if you just take those 3 just super deep breaths all the way, and you know what I'm talking about, the belly breaths of what I call them. All of a sudden your mind flushes just like with that new beginning again. And I am just so excited. You are so right. So I am glad we've had our time today. What I would like to do is I want to make sure that people know, because I know that I have a banner here for you. I'm going to play it across the screen. And tell us some other ways that we can get a hold of you, Lauren.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you go to my website, thegrowthcompany.net, you can schedule a 30-minute, absolutely free. This is not
no gimmick.
It's no gimmick. It's absolutely free. We can spend 30 minutes together, and we can actually begin the shift from where you are to where you know you want to be and you're capable of being. We can begin that in 30 minutes. It also gives us a chance to look at what's working in your life, what's not working, and what you truly would love to have in your life that you don't currently have. And we begin. And it does give us an opportunity to see, am I the right next step for you? Because perhaps I'm not, but you know what? I may know just the right person who is. And that, there's a whole lot of back and forth in that call, and it's absolutely free for your listeners. If you go to my website and you sign up for Begin the Shift, then you can jump right on my calendar. If you want to just have a conversation, the phone number on the screen is good. Your best bet, to be perfectly honest, is to text me first, because I spend a lot of time on the phone.
Yes.
So if you text me with some basic stuff, and then we'll set up a time that we can chat, and we just go from there.
And everyone who's listening to Lauren, one of the things, if she picks you to work with and you pick her, it's an equal coupling, and she will make you accountable. So
I'll tell you, because it happens all in one day. Here's what I tell people: your session is plus or minus 12 hours, but here's the deal, Robert. That session is not over until I know, and we know collectively you got what you came for. So on average, the day is usually 14 or 15 hours, but your life will never be the same. And I'm not kidding when I say that.
That is
clients can tell you too.
Yep. And if you fight it, she'll just keep on going.
It's okay. And you know what? The whole day, it's all about fun. It's hard to tell that I'm even working, because we spend an awful lot of time laughing. Where do I want you to make great changes? Down here when you're bleeding? No, I want you up here. You're having fun. We're having a good. It's an amazing, transformational, miraculous day that always leaves me beyond grateful to be able to do what I do. I'm never sure who's more grateful, you, the client, or me at the gift. Yeah.
I think everyone, because you glow when you leave, they glow when you leave, and it's forever cemented in both their heart and mind. Lauren, thank you so much for being on the show today. You are a blessing. You are just a great, wonderful leader in the iNETrepreneur Network. And, we need to schedule some more time with each other. I feel like I had to create a whole radio show just to get to talk to you. So.
Oh, you're a treasure. You are, Robert. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Network together. It's all about connections. Expand your sphere of influence. Build relationships. Be part of something bigger. Be part of Network Together.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Just spending a half an hour or so time with Lauren. It's just an amazing opportunity just to be around someone who's so passionate about other people living their lives, fulfilling their lives with a fullness of fun, a fullness of growth, a fullness of just seeing life in a different way and opportunities. And really, if there's barriers and there's hiccups in your life and there's fears that you may have, she is someone that is just trained and experienced about helping you get out of the rut. I mean, everyone has the crud now and then, and she's just a wonderful person to work with to get out of that crud. Well, I am so excited. I have Jen. She is with Leadership Requested. She is on our show. Jen, hi. How are you?
I'm fantastic, Robert. How are you?
I am fantastic. I'm having fun. That's just like Lauren says. And I know that Lauren and I we really traipsed a lot around personal development and how it affects the business and how little things, if done correctly, can really compound and create great changes in a person's life. And we went through, and I kind of mentioned this when I opened the show, you and I and many others, we have all gone through this together. This change of how we view technology, of how we view relationships, of how we view business and government and social situations. And, just like Lauren, she can help people change certain attributes. There's also been other changes in life. And one of the things that I love about being on your show and you and I getting to talk is, you didn't just want to change yourself. You didn't just want to change with your daughter. You decided, I'm gonna get up and get out, and I'm gonna create a show where other leaders, other change agents in their fields are able to come onto a show and share a little bit about themselves. And you bring a lot out of them on that show. And I was just, it was just remarkable getting with you. I just didn't feel like we'd ever get off that show. But tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about, like, what was that pivot point when you just woke up and the light goes off and you're just like, what, I got to do something. I got to make something happen, because and it doesn't matter if anyone else is doing it. I know I'm going to do it. Tell us a little bit about these moments.
Well, I appreciate the kind introduction there and the kind words. For me, it was truly feeling like I was doing the same thing over and over again and ending up in the same place and just being tired of it. And I kind of hit my ending point in December of 2019 and just decided, okay, I'm done. I'm going to follow all of the self-help books I've been reading all these years and all the advice I've been given, and I'm going to do it all at once. And I'm giving myself 3 months to get it together. And it really just involved clearing out a lot of toxic stuff, toxic food, toxic TV shows, toxic music. Everything that I was going to put into my life was going to be positive, and I was going to be the guinea pig of my experiment. And for 3 months, it was fun.
So that part, I'm glad we're talking about this, because we did not get, because we've talked before, even not on the show. We've talked several other times. Now that I did not know, and why I say that is so incredible is because you actually facilitated this change, even really being forced to change, and that's for really no. So here you are. For many of us, we had to do the pivots, like in my organization, all in-person meeting to all virtual meeting to. But what happened from it? Not only did we have the virtual meetings, we ended up, developing a magazine, the radio show, an academy, and it goes on and on. Now, there was no forced change from you. So there must have been a point there where you said, hey, and I believe you, because people ask me, they say, what's the fastest way to change your life? And I say, it's the fastest way to change your life. There's only 2 things you can really do. It's change the information that you feed yourself with and change the people in your life. That's how you change fast, and be willing to accept, what it is that you're changing. But you did that without being forced to. So that's pretty remarkable. So let's go back to that a little bit. So you wanted the change because you felt like you were just becoming stagnant, like in Groundhog Day?
I did. I felt like I was getting frustrated with the same points in my career that I always was.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting frustrated with the same dating relationships. I was getting frustrated with the same friendships just not working out or having that same frustration points. My health was just cycling over and over again, and those medical bills kept piling up because of the same health problems, and nothing was ever going anywhere. And just when I would get on a good path, something would fail, and I would get back into that negative space. And you hear the good advice, you get the good
Right.
advice, and maybe you try a little bit of it, but I never was getting fully there. So yeah, I put myself in quarantine, and it wasn't an easy 3 months. And I think that's the unique thing about COVID and the pandemic and everything. Being forced to be alone in your own space, you're forced to deal with a lot of your own stuff. When I haven't dated since 2019. I
Goodness.
had and I was married at 17. I've been in relationships since I was 17. So all of a sudden I had to realize, why was I in relationships since I was 17? Why didn't those work out? Why did I keep seeking out relationships? What do I want in a relationship? Because when you're always moving, you never stop to ask those questions.
Well, I mean, there's no space in between. I mean, there
Yep.
is no space. My mom always told me, she's like, you know, don't bring things into your life until you take things out of your life. Because if you don't have space in between, you'll never get to know who you are. And I think that that's something that you were doing. It's just like, if you're going from 1 to 2 to 3 and you just keep passing the baton to yourself, how do you have enough time to actually have some self-reflection?
Well, and then when you immediately are out of high school and you're going to the next thing, whether it be college, whether it be work, whatever it is, like the Ferris Bueller line, life is constantly moving. You just keep going. And for me, had chronic illness since the time I was a teenager. So that took over so much of my life that I just was going from one trauma and one chaos to another. I struggled with infertility, so I was married and in fertility treatments as a teenager, the age my daughter is now.
Oh
And
my.
I can't even, looking at her now, I can't even imagine the things that I was doing. And then I had her at 20, my son at 22. Like, I never took a break to figure out who I was and what I wanted. So I took 3 months to do that. And by the time I figured it out, I looked around and the world was changing and everyone was going into the same situation I just was taking myself out of.
Oh my gosh. And it really is wonderful when you get to that point. And I had a spiritual mentor, and he told me, he says, it's not about changing the world, it's about changing yourself. And he says the more that you learn how to work on yourself, and a lot of time I say this in networking, business owners, so many of us, we work so hard on what we do, we forget to work on who we are. And he says, if you do as much work on who you are, the world will naturally change before you. Because the lenses are different and the vibration of your attraction is different, and all of a sudden, if you want success, the success is different. And that's what I've seen in you. Now
Oh,
now
so much.
so you do this 3 months, and then you come into like COVID, and then there's another forced change. And were you ready for the pivot? Probably more than some, but you still probably had to pivot again, because you really made this show about like overcoming it, and what leaders do. I love the quote Jeff Olson says. He always says, the difference is they're, people, you know, people don't get things done because they're unwilling or unable to do so. And, you could have, like even like Lauren said, I mean, here she was 6 years old, and don't look at this as like a crisis. I mean, look at this as like this new journey. Like this is an opportunity, and this is an amazingness and awesomeness and all that. And you were the same way. And that's what's cool. And then you bring people onto the show. So tell us a little bit about going into COVID and how you and your daughter actually have such a great idea. Tell us a little bit about your show.
So in the midst of all this, my daughter is a senior in high school. We've been looking at colleges. I didn't go to college. Her dad went to electrical school. So we're kind of out of our realm. And I'm incredibly fortunate to work with a lot of great leaders. And we've been talking to them. What was your experience? What did you do? And as we did that, everyone has a unique story. It's not all I got a 4.0 in high school and I interned and I got into a great school. Everyone did a different path, which is so needed, especially right now when there's a lot of options. So what we decided to do is share the wealth. I would have loved this education when I was a kid because I was only told one path to take. And I know a lot of other kids. My daughter only had one story in her mind, and her mind was so opened by hearing all these other stories, and she was very inspired. And talking to her friends, they loved it. And you've got kids, when you can find something that can catch the attention of the youth and they can feel like they're not alone and they aren't just frustrated with the future that's ahead of them, that's important. And so I've listened to some podcasts, she's listened to some podcasts. We knew we had a lot of time on our hands, so we just decided to go for it. We figured a couple people might listen, with something to do, and it's better than completely watching everything on Netflix. Now it's only half.
well, I talking about that, I had a coach once tell me, and she told me this, and I thought it was like the most amazing thing. And she said, "Don't be afraid of you." And I was like, "Don't be afraid of you." That sounds so hokey. I was a Marine. I mean, like, what do you mean, don't be afraid of you? And she said, and what she meant by that, when she put it in the proper context, is don't be afraid to make that sales call. Don't be afraid to do that interview. Don't be afraid to make that drive. Don't be afraid to, buy that membership or whatever. Every time you feel afraid, you close yourself down to the opportunities on the other side. And see, you could have been afraid to do that. You could have been afraid, well, I didn't graduate college and I didn't have a 4.0 and I didn't make that interview and I'm not going to do that show and I'm not going to take that 3 months off, right? You're afraid of you. What are we afraid of? We keep ourselves from us, and quite frankly, that's what keeps us from all the greatness that we can have in our lives. It's always about us. It's always been about us. It's about our heart set. It's about our mindset. And it's about us developing a skill set that says, we can be that someone. So like with you and your daughter, she's going to high school. She's a senior. You have a close relationship with her. What are some of the things that you're attempting to pass on to the youth? What are some of the things that you've learned? If there's youth watching the show right now, what are some of the things that you and your daughter would say to youth right now that can help them through trying times? And I understand. I got 4 kids myself, and each one of them I have a different dialogue because they also have different lenses when they look at what's going on around them. Tell us a little bit about that, Jen.
I think one of the biggest things is what you just said, and that's be you. I didn't learn that until I was in my late 30s. And I was always told that that's not okay, that my version of what I wanted to say should be stifled, that, children should be seen and not heard, and, women should be in the kitchen. I was taught a lot of old ways of thinking that really fought against my natural nature. And what I've tried to instill in my kids and the kids that I work with and is do you, because you're the one who is going to be living with it. It's hard. It's not easy when you have family pressure and other people's pressure. But the biggest thing that I've had to take away in my life is I'm the one who pays my bills. I'm the one who makes my decisions and puts my head on my pillow at night. And other people's judgments are hard, but not as hard as is living with the decisions I make. So the peace that you have with being yourself and following your gut and your passions is huge. Take the risk. Even if you fail, you're going to have fun on the way, and you're going to know that you did what you wanted and not somebody else.
Yeah, and something else I've learned in my life is like if you were to write a contract, I mean truly write a contract on yourself, what would be the words on that contract? What would you obligate to yourself? From giving to development to legacy to when you leave this earth, what would the contract to you look like? And I do with that with my kids, and it really puts them in the frame of mind of like, yeah, if I was looking at doing business with myself, what am I offering? And what am I providing? And how am I getting there? It really is kind of a crazy thing because, sometimes I think life is the most beautiful thing that we could ever have. I mean, actually, yesterday on Facebook, I posted this mushroom up there, and it's just like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna get a lot of flack. I posted a mushroom, but I just felt like, you look at the beauty of the mushroom and how beautiful it is, and how Lauren and you, Jen, and I, we in a way, we have a contract with life that says, how do we make greatness better? How do we provide better? And in the meeting before this, we were talking about legacy. And so much of the time, we're always fed that legacy is stuff. Well, give them a car, or give them a diamond, or give them your financial portfolio, or here's the house. And I sat down with my son, Troy, and he goes, Dad, I don't know why adults always talk about stuff. He's like, isn't the greatest thing that a person can give someone else is the gift of knowledge and learning? And he's like, because if stuff all goes away, if you don't know how to get it back, it's gone forever. And I looked at him, and I'm like, dang, you're really learning there, sport. and it really is. That is why, like Network Together, the fifth pillar is service to our youth. So with you, what do you look, and no one has a crystal ball, but this next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, what are some of the things that you're planning on maybe doing, or what does your outlook look like? And I know that you're a success oriented person, and that's what I love about you, because you and I both agree it's not about winning, because there can only be one. It's about succeeding, because then you can take everyone with you. Tell me a little bit about what this next year looks like for you.
So we as a team sat down and tried to figure out really what our goals were going to be. And we really wanted to be intentional with how we were going to spend our time, making sure not to burn out, because we are a lot of people who like to spin plates. I think the biggest thing is continuing to be a voice for other leaders and making sure that their stories are able to be told. And using our personal gifts to do that, making sure that we're checking in with each other, that we're not just doing jobs to pass the time and get the job done, that we're tuning into our own gifts, but we're also giving back as much as we can. We want to check in with people. Right now, mental health around the world is not okay. So we're trying to make it a point to check in on our friends, check in on our family, and just make sure that we're doing our part, because we get so busy and so caught up that it's really hard to do that. So it's a lot of concentrated efforts. I know Lauren had mentioned earlier the stress and relaxation. So got to schedule that in these days. And, it gets a little busy, but we're really focusing on being roundabout in getting leaders' messages out there with the podcast. And then also just networking. We spend a lot of time networking with the people who listen, and then getting our guest messages out.
Yeah, and I think it's so important. Again, I always say in anything, and I'm not talking like a product, but it could be a product, but people, people hear, they hear people, they get so much information, they get so much data, they have to like use their wisdom to discern if it's good or bad, or if it's right or wrong, or if it's up and down or whatever, but I always say people don't necessarily though buy what they hear, they actually buy, what they see. And like what Laura and I talked about and what you and I have talked about, the reason why we keep putting ourselves out there is it's because it's not necessarily that we want to be bought. What it really means is we want to be seen as consistent, and that we have perseverance, and we have a message, and we have a passion for helping others. And again, whether we get from it or we don't get from it, there's so many, I always say it like this. It's like the iceberg. For every person that you work with, there's still the 90% underneath the iceberg that are still raising, raving fans. They just haven't raised their hands. And it's really important for every speaker, every business owner, everyone who does a Facebook Live or a podcast. Remember, there's a lot of people out there, and even though they may not tell you that, you brought beauty to their life, they feel that way. They're your raving fan. And like I said, they just didn't raise their hand. Well, Jen, tell us a little bit about the best ways. I have your banner scrolling across the screen here. And, what other ways? And it's just great to have you on the show today.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to catch up. Leadershiprequested.com is our website that has all our information. We also stream on all major streaming channels. So Spotify, Apple, anywhere you listen, you can just look up Leadership Requested or my name.
Yeah. And, Lauren, Jen, and everyone on the show, we do have a book launch coming up on February 17th from 4 to 6 p.m. It's at NT Events for the Art of Connection, 365 Days of Networking Quotes by entrepreneurs, business owners, and influencers. Jen, you got something in there, as I recall. And our next book is going to be called they're already saying, let's get the next book out. I'm like, wow, we're just getting this book out. We're getting a next book out called The Art of Connection, 365 Days of Inspirational Quotes by entrepreneurs, business owners, and influencers. And really, it was my way. It was like my podcast, so to speak, to give back to the world. I mean, I've done a lot, kind of like, underneath the blanket, so to speak, but this is something because I wanted to help touch, people in this world. You touch people in this world, and so does Lauren. And what I love about this is we all do it. We're sharing the same mission, and that's really, lending our gifts, to help others to grow. And, thank you so much thank you so much for being on our show today. You're a rock star. Lauren's a rock star. And you know what I say? Let's do this again.
Agreed. Thank you for having me. Thank
you so much. Well, again, I just had two wonderful, fabulous guests on today. One of our guests was not able to make it, and you know what? I'm sure he's having fun somewhere, but I can guarantee you this: it wasn't as much fun as what we had today. So, I will have to go find him and say, come on to the show with us next time. But thank you for everyone who's watching today. I hope you get a little bit of pop rock. I hope you get a little bit of inspiration, hope, and support from the show. Again, my name is Robert Jones. I'm the owner, founder of the iNETrepreneur Network. And until next week at 2:30 p.m. Mountain and Arizona time, come see us and let's just have some fun. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone.
You've been watching the iNETrepreneur Show, a production of the iNETrepreneur Radio Network with host Robert W. Jones. Join Robert each week as he visits with new and exciting guests who inspire, teach, and mentor entrepreneurs worldwide. Follow Robert each Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, and 8:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.